I wore the UNCW hat too.
Appreciate
Hey, welcome to Sports Talker. I'm your host, Chris Rainer. Friday, May 3rd, 2024. We just passed the end of April, my parents' anniversary, April 30th, 59 years. Congratulations, Danny and Linda Rainer. That the night my dad was at a baseball game, my mom was home watching Jeopardy. That's how it works for some people. You know, you can't be together all the time, so you know they enjoyed it. So happy anniversary, Danny and Linda Rainer. Love you guys. I hope we get another 20, 30 at least out of you. Also passed May Day, which was whatever the day after. Their anniversary was April 30th, so May Day was the next day. Does anybody know what May Day really is? Is that like a Russian holiday or something? I'm gonna start talking Russian. I think May Day is a Russian holiday.
I believe it is.
Something like that. Anyway, we got a co-host today, Ashley Mosley. Thank you for being with us, Ashley.
Here, buddy.
Glad to have you back.
Thank you, buddy.
The scintillating sounds, that radio baritone voice.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. I missed it. Then Piggly Wiggly commercials are epic, too.
They are.
And we're going to talk about Piggly Wiggly here in a minute, too. Our guest today is Jeff Clark. Thank you for being with us, Jeff.
Thank you for having me.
Give us your title and what exactly you do.
I am the president and CEO of Marine Federal Credit Union.
All right. And that's, is Marine Federal just located here in Onslow, or is it in other areas?
No, we have actual branches in 3 different states: North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia.
Okay.
And of course, we were created by 8 gentlemen. Sat down. Several were Marines. Some were former active duty Marines. But 8 gentlemen sat down in 1959 and literally put $5 each in a bucket and started the credit union.
Wow. Nowadays, if they all put $5 in, you'd have $40.
Yes.
That's about it.
And not cover lunch.
Yeah. They'd pool their resources to go get lunch somewhere. And we're going to talk
ROI.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about all that Marine Federal does that people don't know about for the sports community, the general community at large, charities. There's so much that goes on, and we're going to talk about that as we get going too. Also going to talk about your brother.
All right.
Your brother's, of course, Dwight Clark.
Yes.
San Francisco 49er, great. Anytime you see highlights from forever, like highlights of eras and everything, or highlights of all-time highlights, you see the catch. And, man, that was just such a special time to me in football. It just seemed different than it does now, don't it?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
And we're
And
going to
guess
talk about
where he was born?
Now, Dwight was born
In Kinston,
and you were born
in Charlotte.
in Charlotte. Okay.
Right.
So both Carolina born and raised.
Yes.
Now, Dwight, of course, was the same grounds of another great football player in Eastern North Carolina, Ashley Mosley, right?
Yeah.
Same
right.
area.
Exactly.
Another great.
Right.
You played where, Kinston or Goldsboro?
Goldsboro.
Goldsboro High School. Now, were y'all Cougars back then too?
No, we were earthquakes.
Are they Cougars now?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait a minute. They were actually called the Goldsboro Earthquakes?
Yeah.
So it was named after the quake back many years ago.
I don't know what was named after.
How's that for
Earthquake,
showing a little old history there? By the way, folks, just since we got on that
Rocky
topic.
Mount used to be the Blackbirds.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Wilson Fight was the Cyclones. Kinston was the Red Devils.
Carolina's the Hurricanes.
Then everything
stuff like
changed.
that, yeah. But you mentioned earthquake, and I will get off on a tangent in a heartbeat, so bear with me. As you all know, there was a reported earthquake on Topsail Island this past week. All reports say it was a sonic boom. Jets were flying all day long. People saw them, so I don't know how they didn't put that together to start with. But there was no seismic reading, so we're okay. We're not going to slide off into the
Well, I'm glad
Atlantic shelf, so all's well.
Because you know what follows an earthquake, don't you?
A tsunami.
It's a tsunami. That's right.
A tsunami.
Tsunami.
And there was actually a lady on one of the things says, doesn't that mean a tsunami's coming? First of all, for like a 0.0 whatever, probably not. But anyway, I think we're okay, so we're good to go.
He's
it was a sonic
entertaining,
boom.
isn't he, Jeff?
He is. I need to be
You
taking
shoulda-
notes.
You should have heard us at the Marine Federal golf tournament out at Bear Trail. I mean, it was like old home week. It's like we've known each other all our lives. We just start talking about topics.
He could
We were bashing people for not doing this in sports, and doing that.
he could interview a corpse.
No. Now I did come from a law enforcement background, and I was one of those soothing people on the scene. We had others that we would say they could incite a riot in a graveyard just by showing up. People wanted to fight, and so I was the other person. I was the talker.
Getting back to Marine Federal Credit Union.
Yes.
What city was it started? Was it started in Jacksonville?
Oh, Camp Lejeune.
Camp Lejeune? Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Good.
And we're going to get to what they do here shortly. I do want to pay a few bills here. We've got some new sponsors added. Sports Talk's doing really well. Got some new sponsors. So this may take a little while. Sports Talk is powered by Onslow County Motor Company, CNS Paint, Rock Creek Golf and Country Club, Golden Corral, Lane Associates Family Dentistry, Doctors Tommy and Kim Morgan, Jones Onzo EMC, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative. Barnes Diamond Gallery. National Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Bayshore Animal Hospital. Remember, their new location is now open at 623 East Sabiston Drive in Swansboro. Southern Touch Painting. Bartley Insurance Services, Bill Mercer, and Humphrey Heating and Air Conditioning.
Right.
Want to thank the Piggly Wiggly in Richlands, that deli, for coming through with these Merle Bowls this morning. Woo!
so good,
Man,
right.
you talk about pure tea, delicious. If you ever go up there, Miss Sherry runs the deli there, and whatever meal they're having is the best meal you'll ever had. They
is
have
good, it really
they
is.
have their fried pork chops, their meatloaf, everything I've ever had is good. Have you ate there before, Jeff?
Oh yeah, many times.
All kinds of meals, but their breakfast, I love their breakfast. Now it is Friday, so they do have some specials here. They got barbecue pork, fried chicken. Can we go eat after this?
Sure.
Okay. Flounder, shrimp, oysters, catfish nuggets, deviled crabs, clam strips, and T-bone steak. So you can get steak and shrimp tonight too. All day long. They'll have it in the evenings too. They got as sides. They got, and when I say sides, these aren't out of a can sides.
right.
These are like country type sides. Green beans, mashed potatoes, potato wedges, turnips, baked beans. Not many places have turnips as a side. That's a good indicator right there. Baked beans, corn, baked potatoes, sweet potatoes, and gravy. I love gravy. Anything you have is better with gravy. Their sandwich special is a cheeseburger, fries, and a 60-ounce soda. What would you think for cheeseburger, fries, and a drink, price-wise?
How much?
Keep in
12.
mind, this is better than what you'll get at the fast food places.
12 to 18.
$7.95.
Sold.
Well worth it. If they had a drive-through, I'd be through there every day probably. And all plates are served with 2 vegetables, rolls, and cornbread. Go see Miss Sherry at the Piggly Wiggly Deli. Thank you for Piggly Wiggly for being a full-time sponsor with us, and the Piggly Wiggly Deli for providing our breakfast today.
Thank you very much.
I also want to, our hurricane watch has gone to hurricane warning now. They're in the playoffs, so hurricane warning. It's sponsored by Downey's Heating and Air, Jason Humphrey and the boys. We also have our Downey's Wood Ducks report, sponsored by Jason and Downey's Heating and Air. Our racing report, new today.
How about that?
We kind of touched on it last week, but we didn't get into all the logistics of it. We just
Right.
told the story.
Mhm.
But it's powered by Onslow County Motor Company. Ben
Exactly.
Beasley.
Ben Beasley.
You got a little something to say about Ben, don't you?
Yeah, Ben Beasley, Brandon, Travis Thornton. Travis Jack Thornton sounds like a pirate name, doesn't it?
It does.
See him, and of course, go by and see Terry there at Onslow County Motor Company, a bunch of good guys.
1639 Lejeune Boulevard.
Right. Financing is no problem. Great. All the cars are handpicked, I believe. And
Yep.
you get a
I got that right here. All vehicles are hand selected.
hand
They're not
selected.
hand picked, they're hand selected.
The hand selected and,
And
free Carfax.
they have a standard warranty comes with most vehicles, but extended warranty is available. And Carfax is free. Stop by and visit Ben, Brandon, and their friendly, knowledgeable staff. I've drove some cars for them over the years, and everything I've drove back has been in good shape.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt like, I didn't have no problem getting back with it.
Well, he's been there about 18, 19 years
Oh,
now.
yeah.
So, if you've been there that long, obviously you're doing something right and treating people like you want
And
to be
every
treated.
now and then you go by and there's not many cars there. That's because he sells them right and left.
Right.
Don't be put off by that thinking they don't have cars.
And he
There's
works all
more
the
coming.
time. Ben Beasley works all the time over there. So, bunch
And-
of good guys.
And their number is 910-355-7066. And Onslow County Motor Company asked you to join them in honoring those that made the ultimate sacrifice this Memorial Day, May 31st. We'll talk about that every week leading up to that because that's one of the big things with us here.
A couple more people I'd like to thank. I'd like to thank Victor Case and Ron Schote over at CNS Paint Center, Jacksonville's premier paint store since 1957. They came back on board as sponsor Sports Talk as well. Serve all of them down the Crystal Coast with 3 locations, 504 Cedar Point Boulevard in Cedar Point, 105 Wayne Drive in Morehead City, or in Jacksonville right here at 6 Doris Avenue. And they carry the fine line of PPG paint. Good guys. Thank you, Victor Case and Ron Schote. And also, Fountain Management is back on board.
Yes.
Thank you, Sandra Fountain and Lisa Thornton, who, by the way, did a good job in recording the Onslow County Motor Company commercial.
Yes, Lisa
Thank you
does
very
some
much.
commercials for you, don't she?
She does. She's got an outstanding voice.
She's got that radio voice.
She does.
Now, she has a radio voice. I have a face for radio. There's
Yeah,
a difference.
me and you.
And looking at me, you can tell if you see it. By the way, look at wave to everyone in the Facebook and YouTube world. You're worldwide right now. You may have somebody that you've known that's sitting here watching us from Okinawa or something like that.
Harry Brown was talking about getting us some billboards at some point in time, but he said there's no way in the world I'm going to put my picture on it.
No, they would have me. I'd wear my hockey mask probably, especially after going to the dermatologist. Man, it looks like I've been in a gang fight, don't it? Yeah, really, the wife just took a swing at it. I don't want to actually admit it. You can find on-demand sports talk podcasts at WSME971.com. We're live on Facebook and YouTube, And our YouTube channel is YouTube at WSME Radio. You can type that in and see all the old shows that we have on YouTube. You can go into the podcast and see shows from back when Phil did it. Now, is this your first time on Sports Talk?
Yes.
I didn't know if
Yes.
you'd come with Phil before or not. This show goes back, what, 5-6 years now? Total?
Close to 7.
Something like that, yeah. Coach Phil Padgett did for
Seven,
years. So a
wow.
lot of those old episodes are on the podcast, and then the newer stuff, of course, is on the YouTube stuff. And all that stuff leads us into our guest of the day, Jeff Clark. Tell us the Jeff Clark story. It was a dark and stormy night, and the little Jeff Clark
In Chapel Hill.
bounded into the world.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of
conceived in
times.
Chapel Hill, but you were born in Charlotte.
I was born in Charlotte.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And tell us your story about you're a pretty big dude. You obviously play some sports.
I
Tell us
played.
about your sports
I
world.
played baseball. Played 4 years of baseball at UNC Wilmington. And I always tell everybody I was so good I became a banker. Didn't get drafted. Had a good time. I got to. I was very fortunate. In the first 2 years there, I got to work under Bill Brooks.
Uh-huh.
Fantastic man. My last 2 years, the head coach was Bobby Guthrie,
Right.
and his assistant my senior year was Mark Scalf, who just retired after
Right.
almost 1,000 wins. So
And when I was there, it was Coach Guthrie, and then Scaff started the next year.
okay.
And so he was the assistant there, and that's the one I did most of my stuff with. I wasn't fortunate enough to be a good enough athlete to be a player. I was a work assistant with him.
Nice.
Bullpen catcher, stuff like that. The fun stuff without having to actually work out a lot. And I guess that's why.
What position did you play?
I pitched.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about that?
And what was your senior year down there?
What year?
Yeah.
85.
85.
Yeah.
Now, you guys did pretty good that year, didn't you?
Yeah.
The 85 year, I remember, was one of the better years down there.
We had a fantastic first half of the year, and did not do as well in the second half. Tied for the conference championship with East Carolina was in our conference
Right.
at the time, and the selecting committee decided that our second half of the year wasn't good enough. So very unprecedented. They did not choose the co-champions of the conference. They
The
chose
Colonial.
the winner, which was East Carolina, and the third place team. And
Really?
they got to go. We went home as
Who
much
was
as
the
Yeah.
third place team then?
I can't remember.
Because for years after East Carolina left the Colonial, it was pretty much UNCW was
Right.
the powerhouse team, and teams from time to time. Was it the Colonial then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, of course, it's still CAA, but it's the Coastal Athletic Association.
Right.
I didn't know that. How long has it been that way?
I don't know. It was long after I left when that.
But what I'm saying is, it had been that way like 2 or 3 years. Apparently, I didn't even know because you still see
Right.
CAA,
Right.
and I think for years the CAA was looked on in the wrong light because there's a lot of quality baseball there, but they would take the power conferences first.
Right.
Now, was Tommy Eason at East Carolina when you were there, or was he after you? Bob Eason's brother played. He was a masher down at East Carolina. He must have been after you.
I think he was after me.
because he was one
Yeah.
that liked to hit a lot of.
Yeah, I remember the guy that I remember the most in East Carolina was a guy named Winfred Johnson.
Okay.
He was one of the strongest people I've ever seen in my life.
And he could hit one out.
He
couldn't
could hit it any field, anywhere you threw it, he could hit it out.
What's a big baseball moment you remember you on the mound down there?
My senior year, I got to pitch against my senior year. I ended up pitching short relief, and if I'd have known it was that much fun, I'd have asked to do it my freshman year. I had a blast. Got to play in most every game, which was different. And I pitched against UNCC, and some of the guys that ended up in my wedding were on the other team.
Really?
I struck out my cousin for the last out that I pitched. Just some dear friends of mine know the coach. The coach's father was my baseball coach in high school,
What high school was that?
Garinger High School in Charlotte. And in the 11th inning, a fellow senior, Gary Hall, hit a dinger in the bottom of the 11th to win it, and I got the win against UNC Charlotte.
Wow, that's
Wow.
awesome.
It was very awesome.
Have you ever heard of a football baseball coach named George Whitfield? Baby?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah.
I know him very, very well. He's from Kinston.
Okay,
Long time coach.
Oh, yeah.
a very successful coach.
Yeah, he hard-nosed guy. He really is. He coached the JV football team at Goldboro High School one year. And for the first game, they only had 10 players.
Wow.
He run them to death, man. Wind sprint, he run them off.
Well, we about had to get them ready for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Kinston High School, Southwest played them the other day. They had 9 players. At the end of the year, we're down to 9.
What do you do in that case? Does the other team just play 9, or is it 9 on 11?
Well, it's only 9, yeah. I'm talking about baseball.
Oh, baseball.
Yeah, baseball.
Okay, I'm sorry.
They only had 9, and some you can have a DH. They didn't have one to have a DH, so they just had 9 players. I remember one kid got hurt towards the end. The score was already 19-0. Kinston's not known for their baseball prowess. They're a basketball school, So they went and called it because the one kid got hurt, and I don't think they could have finished anyway. Now that red light means the Carolina Hurricanes have scored their first goal of the day. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back on Sports Talk. Hey, welcome back to Sports Talk. I'm your host, Chris Rainer, co-host Ashley Mosley. Thank you for being with us again today, Ashley.
Thank you,
And
buddy.
our guest today, Jeff Clark. Thank you so much for being with us from Marine Federal Credit Union.
Thank you for
We're going
having
to get into more of the stuff. We're getting the Jeff Clark, autobiography going here, but we're going to get into more about what you're doing now with Marine Federal and stuff. You heard as our intro, you heard the music from Sammy Hagar, I Can't Drive 55. If there's ever a song that makes you want to speed, it's that one. And so that's going to be our racing review report brought to you by Onslow County Motor Company, Ben Beasley, and all the gang down there. Thank you for sponsoring this for us. It's going to be a new segment every week. Racing season might be the longest one out there. I used to think hockey season was the longest, but racing actually starts in like February. It doesn't end until November, so it lasts a long time. Are you a big NASCAR fan?
I have been in the past. I don't
was
follow
too,
as
yeah.
close as I used to when we lost to Earnhardt. That one hurt.
And there's a lot of people say that's the day NASCAR died. But I stayed in it a little while longer. A lot of those drivers back then, the Rusty Wallaces, of course, Richard Petty, Earnhardt, those iconic Terry Labonte. It was just seemed like there was more character back then. But I'm getting back into it a little bit, especially with this, and there's some good racing out there.
Oh yeah.
It's not like the old days where everybody came straight off the moonshine truck and jumped in the car though. So that was the character of that age. We're starting to get the new breed coming in. This past week's race was up at Dover, the Monster Mile, they call it. It's a concrete track, 1 mile, that they say it's
Hard.
a bear to drive, yeah. Concrete don't give much. Denny Hamlin was the winner in a Toyota. And that's another thing. It's just hard for me to get into having
A Toyota's a race
a
car.
Toyota with American brands, and there's no
Ford and
Dodge.
Chevy.
There's no Dodge products there now.
Really?
I'm gonna get with Harry Brown. We're gonna try and get a movement going, just like I'm gonna try and get with you about getting that football team at UNCW.
All right.
We'll talk about that more later too. Toyota won the race. Kyle Larson in the number 5 Chevrolet for years. That was Terry Labonte. Used to in the old days, you could look at a number and you knew exactly
Exactly
the
who it
driver.
was.
Yep, because they didn't change as much as they do now. But I think they're getting their swerve back on.
The good old days, Kelly Yarborough and Bobby Allison fighting in the
That's
in the
actually
field out there.
that
in
actually is
South
what
Carolina.
started the modern NASCAR boom, if you want to call it, because people were snowbound on the East Coast. I don't know if you remember it, but there's 3 channels back then. People were snowbound a lot on the East Coast, including here. That was a big snowstorm we had in like 79 or something.
Mhm.
And then they had that the race at the end. That's one of the things people were watching. Then the big fight, the Hawaiian Tropic car. I remember that old car sitting out there, and they're
Swinging
fighting
them
right in
elbows
front of
on
it.
it, buddy.
Yeah. Looked like something straight off a dirt track in in Kinley, North Carolina, or something. Martin Truex Jr. finished 3rd in another Toyota. Kyle Busch. I'm saying all these brands as we get there because the Fords are struggling. I was a Ford guy back in the day, and they are struggling right now. They're just not getting up near the front. The top Ford finisher, whether you've heard of him or not, is Noah Gragson. Who?
Who's
Noah Gragson. Ryan Blaney was next. Of course, his dad, Dave Blaney, used to race back in that same era we were talking about. But it's just getting started. I think they're about 5 races into it. The week before at Talladega, we talked about that last week. I tested the sites a little, DraftKings,
Mhm.
and it ought to tell you something about the nature of betting when they're willing to let you bet $10 and get 250 free bets or $250 in free bets. That's telling you that they're counting on most people losing.
Right.
So that told me what I need to know about betting. I did put, I'd won like $50. I put that $50 on Michael McDowell. He gets booted on the last lap as far from here to, the gym over here at the school behind us. And that close to winning $1,000. So that tells me right there, probably ought to stay out of it.
And one of Richard Petty's 200 wins was right over here off Old 30.
Yeah,
Racetrack off Old
that's
30
true.
over here.
Did you know that?
I did not.
And I've got 5 or 6 things I told you I'm going to send you sports related. I'll send you the GPS picture of that. You can still see the oval from outer space.
Wow.
It's not like the Great Wall of China where you can see it from way outer space. You got to zoom in, but it's there. So far, Kyle Larson is leading the standings. Also, you got Martin Truex Jr. is number 2. Chase Elliott, that's another NASCAR name. Bill Elliott. That was the time when, man, that car was strolling. I don't know if you remember, but at Talladega, which is 2.6 miles long or something, he made up 2 laps under green at Talladega. You know how much faster you got to be than everybody else to do that?
He was really, really quick.
They say
back then,
they
man.
would see him in their rearview mirror coming. He would blow by the car, disappear, and then come back around a couple laps later and pass him again.
I think he was the first race car driver to go with 200 miles an hour. I may be wrong, but
I know he has the fastest lap anywhere because they had to start toning him down with restrictor plates and stuff.
oh yeah.
The Ford was the first one with that Thunderbird to come in with that aerodynamic car. Most everything back then was boxy. Then all of a sudden they figured by rounding them corners, leveling the hood a little bit, that thing could go a lot faster through the air. So that's when the aero stuff started for nowadays. So that's our racing review. Thank you to Onslow County Motor Company. Awesome new segment we're going to do, for eternity and beyond.
All right.
All right, Jeff Clark, let's get back to it. We got you through your college years now. What made you decide that you weren't a major league pitcher and that you were a banker?
The phone didn't ring. So
The Yankees didn't come calling.
no. I did have a tryout with the AA Orioles, and I honestly pitched the single best day of my life.
Really?
I threw harder than I've ever thrown. I didn't miss a pitch. The manager was standing behind me and just told me what to throw. Curveball in.
Get your spots and everything.
I hit every single
like Greg
spot.
Maddox out there putting it on a dime.
I could hit flies that day, and I threw it harder than I've ever thrown it. And the AA team I was trying to make went on a 19-game winning streak, and they never called me. But I was really able to truly put it to bed. I never would lay in bed saying, "Oh, if I'd have had a good day," because I had a day that was better than.
You done all you could do.
I did more than that. I mean, it was just one of those days. It would if I was playing golf, I would have had a hole in one that day. It was one of those days.
Wow. Well, I think what a lot of people don't realize is even getting to the level you did pitching in college, that's the elite. And to get past that to the pro level is even more. It's eliter, if that's a word.
eliter.
It's even more elite. And the athletes like we're going to see this summer, the Ospreys are coming to Jacksonville.
Yeah, that's going to be fun to watch.
Jacksonville Ospreys, and that's going to be the wood bat leagues that are basically the kids that are already in that 3-year contract basically for college.
Right.
Can't go to the pros yet. You're having the same talent as what we're seeing like at a Wood Ducks game.
Mm-hmm.
They're pro players. So it's going to be a good summer to get that started here in Onslow County.
Starts in June, I think.
Yep. Late May, but their first couple of games are on the road. So their first home games here will be in early June. They got a guy that's going to be calling the games, doing their TV broadcast. He's a little shaky. He's got a face for radio. He's going to give it a try.
You know him?
Yeah, I know.
You're looking
Very
at
well.
You're looking at it.
And the beauty of calling a baseball game. Have you ever done any broadcasting, like helping with the tournaments and stuff?
No.
Okay. Basketball by far, these guys will tell you, is the hardest. Sometimes, as our capable behind the man scene, Chris Hollywood man says, it's theater of the mind. You may miss a couple of passes, but they don't know that. All of a sudden Jordan's passed to Perkins instead of Jordan Worthy and Perkins. You know what I mean? Football's a lot easier because you got that break between plays. Unless you got a fast break team like the Cardinals where that one year where the plays were going that quick. Baseball is by far the easiest. Because baseball, a lot of times, if you weren't talking, people wouldn't even know you were on the air. Because, the plays take so long, in between. They do have the pitch count now, which is kind of cool.
Right.
What do you think about that being a former baseball player? Would that have been nerve wracking to be on a pitch count? Or the clock.
Yeah. I don't think I would have ever noticed it. I wanted to go when I had the ball. I wanted to go.
Yeah, and you wanted to be at your tempo anyway.
Right.
Now, are you a big major league guy?
Somewhat.
Who's your team?
I like the Dodgers.
Dodgers. Okay, and they're doing well this year, leading the West out there. Now, when you see it on TV, in my opinion, it's been pretty. I thought it would be a big problem, but it's been pretty seamless. It seems like the pitchers are
I agree.
falling right into it. And I'm like you. I think the pitchers like it being a little quicker.
Yeah. As a rule, everybody I've ever known pitching likes to have a rhythm. And one thing that will get a pitcher upset is if a batter steps out to try to break that rhythm up a little bit. But, I think that pitch clock is I know it's for the pitcher, but I think the batters are involved too with the guys that get out and redo their gloves and every pitch.
Well, they call it a pitch clock, but you're right. It was for the at bat,
right?
Because so many times you have a batter step out, pitcher would step off to counter him, and then every time you said there's some of them. Every time they do it, they're unwrapping stuff and rewrapping.
Right.
So it's definitely sped the game up, and I think it's made the games noticeably shorter to where baseball games can be a long game sometimes.
Yes.
Do you think a batter stepping out of the box has ever led to a pitcher throwing at him?
I'm sure.
I've done it.
For some reason. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, you being a former college pitcher, and you may have been there about the same time. Henry Rochelle.
Mm-hmm.
Works Sanders Ford now, worked with probation for years on the base and everything. Henry hit, of course, hit 5 home runs in one game. I'm sure you've seen the
8 for 8.
Yeah, 8 for 8, 5 home runs. You're the pitcher that day. After the third home run, are you still pitching to him?
If it depends to me, it depends on the situation, the score, who's on base, kind of thing. I wouldn't want to throw at him and get a unnecessary person in a scoring
Well,
position.
chances are it wasn't the same pitcher because I understand they were playing Radford and it was like 19-3 or something.
Oh well, in that
So
case,
it's probably
yeah.
just, you know.
If it didn't matter, let's just say at best, he wouldn't see a strike.
lot of
But I
spin.
know Henry. I love Henry. I don't think I'd throw at him. I don't know. I just
But a lot of
think I don't-
down and away. Yeah.
Yeah, I would roll it up there before I let him. hit
Maybe
something.
one up and in.
Well,
and then the rest down
just,
and away.
just to say hello.
Now, you pitched at UNCW, so you remember the spring break tours, the Radfords and all them that would come down on their
Right.
spring break because they couldn't play up there. And you guys, when y'all had a spring break, y'all were there to play at ball games because you
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
get to go home because that's when everybody was coming down. So
And everybody wanted to come to Wilmington. It was my freshman year we
Beach.
traveled, but that was the only year we traveled because
Yeah.
everybody would come down. We would have teams come down. I remember Miami of Ohio would come down. We would be 15-2. They would be 1-1.
yeah, because they just hadn't played.
They
never
hadn't.
played.
They're knocking off the rust. Still,
Did you
so.
play your games at Legion Field?
No, at UNCW Wilmington. It's
And it's named for your coach, Brooks
yeah,
Field.
Bill Brooks was.
Okay.
You remember it like I do when I was there right after you left helping with the team. And you remember the chain link fence in the outfield, nothing, no windscreen, no nothing. The little hut across the street where some of the teams would stay, and then there was the other hut where equipment was kept.
Uh-huh.
So every time I see Coach Scaff, I remind him about the snake pit, I called it. We're unloading all those old tennis nets out of that thing to go make a batting cage out of tennis nets. That's how low budget it was.
Wow.
Me and Coach
And
Scaff.
snakes
You
really
know,
And as I lay that thing on the ground and open it up, there's a copperhead in it. And I had toted it out right by my ear across the street. I know.
I've never thought about. You're talking about like the nets in front of the pitcher when you're throwing batting practice.
No, we made a batting cage. We took.
Oh.
He knew that he got word somehow that I used to help my dad with fishing nets with those weavers, you know.
Right.
So he came up with the bright idea to take these old tennis nets,
Right.
and weave them together and make a full batting cage.
Well, you know
That's how much work we did on that.
you know
thing.
the
the screen.
the screen that
Yeah.
blocks when you're doing batting practice. It's got an L shapes where you throw.
Yeah.
I never thought it. Those were tennis nets.
Oh yeah, they were cut
inside
down
that.
tennis nets. We had to do those too.
That's exactly.
It was so low budget. Now you go down there. Have you been to a game recently?
Yeah, they've got a whole team that works on the field.
Have you gone to their facility out in right field? That is awesome.
Yes.
We
Yes.
did the tour when we went down there. Myself and Hollywood would go see Coach Hood each year and do an interview. Kansas scored their second goal, but speaking of Coach Hood, was he playing at Campbell when you were there? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I think he's younger than me.
He was a little maybe behind you, but
Right.
he was kind of between you and when I was there, like bridged the gap there.
I got you.
But of course, doing a great job with the Seahawks.
Oh, yeah.
We need to check out a game sometime this year.
Love to.
We'll try and do it.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back on Sports Talk. Hey, welcome back to Sports Talk. I'm your host, Chris Rainer. Here, the Scorpions singing "Rock You Like a Hurricane." So it's our hurricane warning. We had a hurricane watch all season where the Hurricanes were leading the Metro up first or second place. It's gone to official warning now because we're in the playoffs. Time to kick booty and take names. I do want to give a shout out to the Hurricanes organization for what they did in Tuesday night's game. A moment of silence, of course, for all the tragic events that happened in Charlotte. The TFO officers that were involved with the Marshal Service, 2 probation officers, U.S. Marshal, and I believe a deputy there in the Charlotte area, or a police officer from Charlotte. Just tough stuff, man. I did probation for 31 years, and we all did those roundups where you go to these houses and serve warrants, the same stuff they were doing, and it's tough because you know that at any time behind one of those doors, there's somebody that's going to do something like that. And these guys, you got to have the ultimate respect for our law enforcement for the job they do, and it's just a tough time. And our prayers are with their families and the officers that were injured. Our prayers are with them. And the Hurricanes did a thing. I'll try and get a video. My buddy Brandon Potter went to that game. I didn't go to that game, but he took a video during the thing, and I've never heard the air conditioner running at PNC Arena before during a game. That's how quiet it was. All the respect from the fans, just a good thing, and a good thing out of a bad thing. And hopefully, things can get, these families can get on their lives. So that's just a tough thing. And anyway, shout out to the Hurricanes organization for doing that. The Hurricanes, of course, in the playoffs. They'll be playing playing the waiting game right now, which is, I guess, good to save your legs. Because you ever ice skated much before, Jeff?
Recreationally.
Very taxing.
I could,
yes. There's only one position I could play, and it'd be goalie, but I couldn't do it on skates. I'd have to be standing on the ground because first time I fell off them skates like they do, that stuff they do where they're blocking stuff and get right back up, I don't see how they do it. That's the only position I could play, though. So it'll help their legs a little bit. The Rangers are getting a rest, too. We're basically waiting for the next series. Don't know when their next game will be yet, but the Hurricanes finished off the New York Islanders 4-1 in that series. And I don't know if anybody saw the video. I think I may have sent it to you, Chris, to post on the website of the poor Islanders fan when the Hurricanes scored 2 goals in 9 seconds.
Oh, yeah, I posted
From Borelli's. It's a famous bar up on Long Island, a famous watch party they always have for away games and stuff. 2 goals in 9 seconds the previous Monday to win that game, and he was just like freaking out.
It's awesome. It's on our socials, Facebook. Check it out. Yeah.
So then this past Tuesday, this is 2.0. 2 goals in 6 seconds. Wow. And it shows the same guy on a different video. Bless his heart. He had it, man. And the guy next to him ruined the video because there was one word he kept saying at the top of his lungs over and over, you can probably imagine, that made it where it's not shareable on WSME due to our standards. So 2 goals in 6 seconds. That's almost puck drop and go straight to the goal, you know? So the Canes won that series 4-1. They did lose one game up in New York. I think that was the token loss to get another home game where you can get all those millions of revenue. You've dealt with the logistics of sports. You can only imagine what one game. Probably the NHL, the worst thing they want is 4-0 sweeps, because you can imagine there's 2 or 3 games where you're not making that revenue. But it just happened, you know. So the Canes come back home, win the game, and they're off to the next round against the New York Rangers. So thank you to Downey's Heating and Air and Jason Humphrey and the guys for sponsoring that. I'll mention the Wood Ducks a little later, what they're doing. They also sponsor the Wood Ducks Report. Wood Ducks aren't doing bad. They're kind of holding their own. We're going to line up and go get a game. We want to get our firsthand view of them and make our own assessment of the team this year. So we have to do that.
Yeah, Bob Warlick, Chris Rainer said he's going to make it happen for
We're going to make it happen, Bob. We'll get there. Now, do you go to any Wood Ducks games or
Yes.
get a chance to get it? How do you do that with all that you do and all the – I know the job you have, CEO, is so time constraining. And tell us a little bit more about the events, some of the events you guys sponsor around here, and what you do for our athletics here that people don't even know about.
Well, mostly what we've done lately, quite frankly, has been out on the base. We've been doing quite a bit with the Marines and whatnot. We way back in the day, we had talked earlier about the high school football that
The Jamboree.
that we got involved with. Piggyback that idea from a group out of Wilmington.
Yeah,
And,
they have a big one down there,
yeah,
the
the very
BBD
big one.
thing.
And,
Sorry.
No, that's a great.
I didn't mean to mention
that was a
Ryan.
great company. But we piggybacked on that idea, and Jacksonville at one time was going down to Wilmington
Right.
and was participating in that. So then we were trying to bring it back up here. So we were able to do that, and Marine Federal was one of the founding groups to
Title
put that
sponsor for a
together.
long time,
For several years, we did that.
for the football jamboree.
Yeah.
Are they going to bring it back?
They're working on it. The thing that would help it the most would be to have a turf field like they have on the base without all the logistical problems of getting people on the base.
Right.
They're of course working on the turf. Do you guys have anything to do with that stuff going on over there as far as
No.
the city involved you guys or anything?
No.
They're trying to get a multi-purpose facility and they'll have as part of it a turf football soccer field and that would help.
Well, I think some coaches really like, not that they dislike the jamboree, but I think it's made it more.
It makes it
for some
easier to
of them
scrimmage because
scrimmage,
yeah.
like Jacksonville
Right.
went to Richlands scrimmage last year.
Right.
I think they got a lot out of that.
We covered that live. That was fun.
It
We'll have
was
to do that
fun. I
again
hope
this
we
year.
do it this year.
The last couple of years, the first year we did it was out on the base, but then it went to North Side.
Mhm.
And it is, as you can imagine, there's a dozen teams
Yeah.
at different
Right.
times, working
At
on
one
your
time,
field.
it was up to 16 because there was 8 county schools and 8 visiting schools.
That's a
remember?
lot
Yeah.
to say grace over.
It really
That's a
is.
lot. Getting
And
them
we-
coming, and then you're all hoping that they get there and the clouds don't open up.
Right. And the wear and tear on that field, kudos to
Oh,
North
yeah.
Side for raising their hand to do it. I mean, we actually, there was a donation made to the school to help with the sodding and whatnot.
Right.
Because, I mean, you can just
They tear it
imagine
all to pieces.
you got all those guys out there, they're going to tear that field up.
I don't know if you remember, but we'd had some weather troubles. And the one great weather year we had, some squirrel or a cat gets in a substation
Yes.
Come that kitty
Norfolk,
cat.
Virginia somewhere and blows the grid. Who would have thought? Power goes out. All
You
right,
really
Kansas-
believe that happened?
It did happen. Steve Goodson told me, so it happened.
Okay.
I gotta believe
That's
it.
true.
He's our power guy.
How about
This
it?
is our money guy here. Steve's the power guy.
I got you.
All right. Canes just scored their third goal. They're on a roll. We're gonna take our last break and come back with a little questionnaire for you. I hope
Fair
you
enough.
studied.
I did.
We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to Sports Talk. I'm Chris Rayner. We got Ashley Mosley, co-host. Jeff Clark is our honored guest today. Thank you for being with us again.
Thank you for
We're
having
talking about all the great stuff Marine Federal does. You guys do through them. We were talking about earlier off the air about the golf tournament you guys just had out at Bear Trail Country Club there. Great event, man. It's gotten so big you have to have 2 separate flights, right?
Yes.
Now tell us about what that goes for and stuff. It's not Marine Federal making money, to go in the bank. It goes to some great charities.
That's right. We had actually we added a charity this year. We had 3 this year. It was the USO of Jacksonville, United Way of Onslow County, and Hope for the Warriors. And each one of those groups received a check for $17,500.
Wow. That's a big
Great.
golf tournament.
Yeah, it was nice. It's
4 groups got that kind of money from a golf trade. That's something.
I was out.
it's nice.
Let's put on a WSME golf tournament.
We're ready to, man. I
Find
think
some charities.
there may be one in the works. I'm not sure.
Sounds good to me.
That
Bob
was our
Warren, Jerry.
that was our 30th edition. We've done it for 30 years.
Really?
It started by my predecessor, Craig Chamberlain, who's done a fantastic job for many, many years putting that thing together. We've raised almost $2 million that we've given back to the community over the 30 years. And it's a known, we were talking about this, it's a known tournament. We have 18 teams in the morning and 22 in the afternoon. It's usually towards the end it's around April 20th or whatever that Friday is of each year. And it typically sells out about the middle of February.
Wow.
Good.
Yeah, it's
Good.
not much stuff available there.
Right.
So if you want to do it early. And they
Yeah.
can probably access that through the Marine Federal website.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I got some of the results here from that tournament to mention. Closest to the pin, you had Shane Yenzer on hole number 4, Shiloh Sepola on hole number 7, Justin Fife, that's Barney's cousin, Justin Fife on hole number 12, Chuck Collins on hole 14, and Gary Ray on hole 17. So that's one thing that's unique about Bear Trail is they have 5 par 3s. A lot of people don't realize, but on the back 9, they have 3 par 3s and 3 par 5s, which I always thought was a cool thing for every course to do.
Right.
The whole way through, have the same number of par 3s as par 4s as par 5s. Most of them have, predominantly par 4s, and a couple of each of the others. Your winning teams in 5th place with a 58 was May Exterminating. Actually tied for 3rd place, I'll say that. You had 3 teams tied at 58. May Exterminating ended up finishing 5th. I guess they do like a scorecard type playoff.
Right.
In 4th place, same thing with a 58. There was Quadrant Construction. And 3rd place with the same 58 was Sparks Chiropractic. Oh, Sparks, they jumped in there, didn't they? 2nd place, actually, this is tied for 1st, and technically because you had the 1st and 2nd had the same score. But based on the scorecard playoff, you had 2nd place, 57 was Team Bartley. Do you remember who that was, the first name?
No.
And then with 57, Hope for the Warriors, which is good because that's one of the groups. That's awesome. It's a great tournament, man. I just couldn't fathom how seamless everything was out there. Your volunteers jumped on it like white on rice. You know what I mean? They were just, man, it was right there.
And kudos to Kyle and his group at the golf course.
They have a great staff.
They truly made it
Great
simple
staff.
for us. So it was nice. And the course was in good shape as always. So I can't say enough.
I've never seen an ugly golf course.
Amen.
And that's the beauty of golf. You play golf yourself.
Yes.
So say you're a tennis player or a pickleball player. You're going to go play in Florida to the pickleball court. It's the same thing as the one you play at Onslow Pines, court-wise.
Right.
But you go to play a golf course in Florida, everyone's different. And me and you got to talking about that course down in Myrtle Beach. I definitely want to do that one.
The Legends, I think it
It's
is.
called Legends, and there's 18 holes, but every one of them is a famous hole in golf, like a reproduction of that hole.
Right.
And Jeff's played it before and said it's pretty darn accurate.
It's awesome.
So we have to go try that sometime.
Yeah, man.
I don't know if me and you in Myrtle Beach might be a bad thing.
My
Between
bad
the crab
days over
legs
with, buddy. my bad days is over with. I'm telling
Crab
you.
legs.
I'm well behaved now.
The Spanish guy and then all that down there.
I ain't nowhere near crazy.
Now, you went to UNCW. You remember the gagging
Yes.
down in
yeah.
Myrtle Beach?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Back then, you had like Alabama playing some of those bars and stuff. It was just a great
I had a
time.
buddy of mine almost got attacked by an alligator on a golf course in Myrtle Beach one time.
There's a few down there.
Oh yeah, he didn't believe it though. He was into them beers, and you couldn't see where your T-ball landed down the hill.
He figured
So
it out.
we hit him in the fairway, and there's a big old alligator. I bet he was 12 feet long. He was about 3 feet from Ed Caraway's. Maybe I should tell this. His golf ball. And I said, Ed, I'm going to stay here in the golf cart. And he said, that's just a fake. That's an ornament they got sitting out here in the middle of the fairway. I said, okay. I stayed in the golf cart. Of course, again, he'd been in them beverages pretty good. He grabbed an iron because there was a lake in front of the green. he grabbed a 9-iron or something, started toward that golf ball. When he did that, I gave him that mouth out like
Ooh.
that.
Wow.
And
I
for,
said, Ed, get my ball while you're over there. We went back in, but yeah, they're out there, no question.
for a
about it.
short period of time, too, an alligator can run like a gazelle. Now, they ain't got a lot of staying power. They ain't going to chase you for miles, but for a short period of time,
Oh, yeah.
you better
They're
be away
gonna
from
get you,
them.
buddy.
All right, we're going to get to know Jeff Clark a little better here. Some of
Yeah.
his likes and dislikes. And this is just what pops in your mind first. Duke or Carolina?
Ty.
I'm glad you
That's
go back
very
to that, man.
diplomatic.
I'm
Well,
glad
it's
you
just the
go
ones I
back.
remember. I got to get the full list.
Yeah.
There's a couple I may have forgotten. NBA playoffs or March Madness?
March Madness.
Lambeau Field or the Palace at Dallas? You know, Jerry Jones monstrosity up down there.
I hate Dallas. Anywhere on earth but Dallas.
Your brother did his part to whip the dreaded Hun down there, and you still don't like him. But we'll talk about them more. Okay. Wrigley Field or Fenway Park? Actually, Lambeau, have you been there before?
No.
You need to go. That's
I
a
do.
bucket list place.
I do.
It's right up there with like Notre Dame.
Absolutely.
College and stuff.
Absolutely.
All right, Wrigley Field or Fenway Park? Cubs or
Fenway.
yeah, Fenway. Dean Smith or Coach K?
Smith.
Jack Nicklaus or Tiger Woods?
Nicholas.
Your favorite baseball movie?
Movie.
Some of this I probably should have prepped before a little.
Yeah, that I got a
Just
handful of
whatever pops
those.
in your mind. First baseball movie.
Bull Durham.
Bull Durham. And
Hard to beat that.
you
one.
were at that age, you were at that level where you know that stuff in the dugouts and on the pitching mound, a lot of that was what went on during baseball games.
Oh, absolutely.
How many times your catcher come out and talk to you about something besides like, you see this blonde over my shoulder over
Yes.
here or something? You know, things like
Many,
that.
many
It was
times.
stuff like that.
And another reason I've got a guy that I played with. His name was Wes Curran, left-handed pitcher.
Yeah.
He ended
Wes
up.
is in that dugout.
He's in that dugout in the
How about it?
scene where
Yeah,
he
that's
had to
right.
wear
Wes
the
was-
rose goes in the
yeah.
front, big guy scene. You know, Wes was in the dugout.
Wes is the one in the dugout too when they do the wave. He's the only one that stays standing up. So that's how you can tell who Wes
That's
Curran
Wes.
was.
Yeah.
I forgot. You're right. He's
Yeah.
from UNCW. His brother Perry played at UNCW shortly after.
I
that.
did not know that. Okay.
He was there towards the end of when I was down there.
Okay.
While we're on baseball, GOAT in baseball.
Lou Gehrig.
All right. And see, we've talked about this before. The greatest of all time in other sports, most times is this way.
Mhm.
In baseball, it can be all the way back to Babe Ruth on up to Mike Trout or somebody. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Depending on the era and everything. All right, football movie. Favorite football movie?
Drawn a blank of it. The Notre Dame.
Oh, Rudy.
Rudy.
Yep. That's
Rudy.
a great one. And people that watch Rudy and just skip to the end don't understand. You have to watch all the crap he went through to see the ending.
I got a thing I would need somebody to verify this, but I was told by a pretty good source that the reason Rudy was able to play was because Joe Montana didn't play the last game.
I don't
Have you ever
know
heard
that?
that?
But I know the quarterback in the movie, his last name's Berger or something, or Bergner. And I had heard that Montana was the quarterback then too, so it's possible.
So
I don't
he
know.
didn't. Montana didn't dress, and Rudy was able to dress and
Gosh.
play.
Very possible.
I'd need a
I've
fact
also
check on
heard
that, one.
Montana tells a different story about the Rudy days than what you see on TV.
That's a fact.
And I'm sure it was glorified a little bit.
Yeah.
But Rudy did actually get a sack on the next play.
That's awesome.
Another little bit of trivia. Do you know the real Rudy is in that movie?
Yes.
He's behind the kid's dad. You know,
Yes.
he's the one that beat him on the chest.
Yes.
That's the real Rudy.
Yes.
How about that?
GOAT in football.
Joe Montana, hands down, not a competition.
And a lot of people would pick Brady, but I think we're off air when we were talking about, you were talking about if you had one game.
If I had one
and you're a
football
quarterback.
game I needed to win for all the marbles, Joe
Joe
Montana
Montana.
would be my quarterback.
All right. Favorite basketball movie?
Hoosiers.
Yeah, that's the one that comes to my mind because it's so, and that actually happened. It was on a different scale. Me and my son go to Lambeau every year. We haven't been since COVID, but we went every year because he's a Packers fan. And we always had these little side trips. And the year when COVID hit, I'm sorry, we call it the plague. We don't call it COVID. The plague. We were going to go to that gym in Indiana. It's called Walkertown or something like that. And it's still there. And you can go and it's just like it was.
Wow.
The old tongue and groove, siding, painted green and all that stuff. So that's a good side trick there. While we're on basketball, the GOAT in basketball.
Michael Jordan.
Okay. So that answers my next question, Jordan or LeBron. Because some people may say Russell or something.
Jordan, easily.
I just don't, hands down, when I see some of those Facebook videos of LeBron flopping because his teammate, or somebody flipped him, just barely touched him.
Right.
You never see Jordan do crap like that. He was just out there to win. All right. Music before 2000 or after 2000?
I think music ended in the 80s.
So turn of the century,
It didn't even make it to the 90s, in my opinion.
really.
80s is when it started.
When it started that.
But do you
rapping
like the
stuff.
80s music?
Yes.
A lot of music in the 80s was
Yes.
pretty good stuff. 70s and 80s, yeah.
Yes.
60s.
Yes.
All right. The GOAT in NASCAR.
Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah, there's really probably between him and Petty, I would say.
Yeah.
And Petty, even though he had more wins and it wasn't even close, it was like 200 to 70 some for Earnhardt.
Right.
They used to race in a different era. Like Ashley was saying earlier, the track out there at Piney Green, the old 30 area, that was a sanctioned race. That was one of Richard Petty's 200 wins
That's
out
awesome.
there.
I think Dale
It was like on a
Earnhardt.
Tuesday night or something,
I think Dale Earnhardt would have been a good athlete in any endeavor that he wanted to participate in.
Yeah.
Because he had a natural killer instinct spirit about him.
Yeah.
He was going to win. It don't make
There are winners in the world. Not to harp on my brother too much, but he used to tell me that there's some people that just made him real nervous on the field.
Uh-huh.
He's always said he was very lucky that he played with Montana, because Montana was like that. But Doug Flutie, he said, if you stood beside him, he looks like a tennis player. I mean, tiny guy,
But just intense.
but he wins.
Yeah.
He just wins, and last second, break your heart, win. And he said that Dwight used to tell me that Doug Flutie used to scare him to death
Yeah.
now this would be
to play against him, because
this
he's
would be
going
a
to
good
win.
trivia question. Speaking of Doug Flutie, what was he the last person in the NFL to do? Do you know? It's out of the box. You got to think. And if you didn't see it, you probably wouldn't know. You would guess. Last
No
person in the
idea.
NFL to do a drop kick.
Oh, yeah,
Belichick
No
let
way.
him do it for an extra point or a field goal. I
Was it
can't
good?
remember. Yeah. And of course, with a drop kick, it's not a punt.
Right.
It has to hit the ground before your toe can. So it's the instant it hits the ground, you kick it. They used to do it that way.
They do
Remember?
it all the
Yeah.
time.
A drop kick. He was the last one in the NFL to do a drop kick. Greatest of all time in hockey. I know you're not a big hockey fan, but most times there's one
Gretzky.
name. Yeah, exactly. That comes to mind. All right. Taste great or less filling?
You remember that, don't you? That-
Dwight-
Well, it's
Dwight-
not just the.
Dwight did a commercial on it.
Yeah, it's
He
not
did a
just
Miller
the
Lite commercial.
commercials.
How about
It's a
it?
lifestyle thing. Are you a taste great or a less filling guy?
Well, at my age, I'm into the less filling now. But can I say Thai? Because that's
You want
my
less
brand,
filling
by
to
the way.
taste great.
That's
yeah.
my brand. So I
I got
And
you.
I'm-
Dwight
I'm a
did a
good
commercial. How about that?
yeah.
Oh, he was in one of those commercials?
Yeah, he did
That's
one.
awesome. There was so many of them. And I know I get off on tangents, but if you go on YouTube and just type in one of them, they all pop up underneath it. And they were so cool to go back and watch the old ones.
Yeah.
Especially the one where they had probably every athlete known to man in that era in one commercial.
Yes.
It was like a some kind of
Like an all-star
golf
game
tournament
or something.
they
Yeah,
were doing.
yeah.
Something like that. All right. Guardians or Indians?
Indians.
Redskins or Commanders?
Commodores, or I say that on purpose because one time I misspoke and said Commodores instead of Commanders. They said, "Who's quarterback? Lionel Richie." So, Commodores or Redskins?
I like the traditional.
Redskins.
Yeah. So
And apparently everybody's good with that except just a handful of people, and they're not Native Americans.
Right.
So anyway, all right, this one I can probably guess yours. Greatest sports memory.
slightly prejudiced. The catch.
The catch.
Big catch. How about
Now
that?
you were our era too. You remember, of course, the Miracle on Ice.
Yes.
Even not being a hockey fan back then, it didn't matter. Everybody watched it. Everybody saw it. It was an American thing, and
I'm a fan of that in particular. I just a couple of weeks ago I played golf with Ruziani.
really,
Yeah.
Oh,
Have you
how
got
Just
his-
about
scored a
that?
goal.
you got his digits.
Yeah,
Tell him next time he gets up this way, we'll get you both on the show.
will do.
He is a great speaker. He has made a living off of speaking
Yeah.
since that, the tournament and everything. Even people that don't know it now, because a lot of people, younger people, were introduced to it with the movie Miracle,
Mhm.
from the Disney movie.
Right.
So yeah, that's just awesome.
Yeah. Great
Um,
guy.
Even a call in sometime if you could arrange that, we'd love to have him.
Sure.
But I'd love to tell him to come to Coastal North Carolina. We know a couple golf courses he can play that we deal with here. We'll get him some free golf, and you guys hang out a little bit. He can visit the beach, and we'll have him on the show one day.
Fair enough.
That'd be
All
great,
right.
man. Well, call in sometime.
Yeah, exactly. Now let's get to your brother Dwight. you were a very good athlete. I mean, you get to the level of college pitching, you're at the upper, like we talked about before, the elite of baseball. Now, your brother Dwight, did he play all three sports? Or was he not a baseball guy?
He stopped playing baseball pretty early, but he did track. He ran track. He was
Okay.
And he was 6'5".
6'5".
Well, where did he actually play ball in high school?
At Garinger High School.
In Charlotte,
Yeah.
okay.
And then college,
He played football at Clemson. But he played when he went down there. There were 5 quarterbacks. One was Steve Fuller.
So was he
yeah.
quarterback coming into
He
college?
was,
Okay.
yeah. And he was not going to. Dwight was not going to play. And Red Parker asked him. He said, "You want to play quarterback or you want to play?" And Dwight said, "I want to play." So he moved to defensive back, and he hated it.
Yeah.
Hated it, like really hated it. And I remember after his freshman year, sitting around the kitchen table, and he made the announcement that he is leaving Clemson and he's going to go play basketball at Appalachian State for Bobby Crimmins
Yeah.
before he went to Georgia Tech, before Bobby Crimmins went to Georgia Tech. And my father just got up and went and called the recruiters that he had talked to to get Dwight to go to Clemson. One of them was Ed Emery, who ended up at
East Carolina,
Carolina.
right?
And Emery called Steve Fuller, who was in Spartanburg, told him to come up and talk to Dwight. He said, "What are you doing? Why do you don't quit?" And they decided to see what he wanted. He said, "I'd really rather play offense," and they developed a new series of plays where there was a flanker, and Dwight played flanker,
Yeah.
which I'd never heard of till then.
Kind of like the H-back, sort of similar.
Sort of
Yeah.
inside,
Wide,
but behind the
right, yeah.
Slot back,
inside,
sort of the same thing.
yeah, inside, but behind the tight end. It was an unusual formation.
But it was
And
an
then-
easy position to get open for, which
Yeah.
that was always one of his great things. He could get open.
And his dream in life was to play basketball at Carolina, but he always said he wasn't tall enough. And when you talk to guys that played at Clemson, they said Dwight was playing basketball on the football field. He would run his route and box out people and hold his hand out to catch the ball.
And as we've seen in history, he can go up and get the ball too.
He can climb a little bit.
Yeah,
too.
I mean,
Yeah.
he can high point it.
Yes.
Probably maybe the most famous high point ever. And I mean, when you think about it, I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here. That might be the greatest high point catch known in NFL history because of the magnitude of the situation.
Right.
To win that game, the NFC Championship. I mean, what year was that? The moment.
It was January of '82.
82. So the 81 season, 82. They, of course, went on to win the Super Bowl. And how many Super Bowls did he win total?
2.
2.
He was in the front office for 3 of them, but he played in 2 of them.
And so he went on to stayed in the football life, went
Mhm.
front office and then. But that catch is there's so many things that you get the term iconic. The call, Al Michaels, do you believe in miracles?
Yeah.
Iconic. Down goes Frazier, iconic. The home run to win the pennant, stuff like that. And that is one of the top, I would say probably top 10 because it's always been called the catch.
Yeah.
There's no other catch called the catch.
Vin Scully.
And that's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
the
he did.
catch. Now
tell you, it
you
was-
ironically were not at that game, were you?
No, I was at UNCW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't go for that game. And you had been to a bunch of them otherwise though, right?
Yes. When Dwight was playing, they were in the conference. Atlanta was in the conference, and us being from Charlotte,
Right.
it was right down 85. So we went every year because when you're in the conference, you play one home and away, obviously. And we went to Atlanta, and it was almost like a family reunion. It got to be. It was a big deal for my
Oh, I
family
imagine.
because we were just right down the road. I was not at the NFC Championship, but I did make the next game.
That's awesome. I imagine you were watching it probably with your brothers there at UNCW, weren't you?
Yes.
And the crowd, I mean, knowing the family of somebody that's doing something like that on there, that's just got to be.
Yeah.
Y'all probably had a little party that night, didn't you?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we did.
So you don't remember much about the rest of the night either.
I did not see, oddly, the end of the game. And if you recall, Eric Wright,
for the Cowboys.
for the 49ers,
Oh, yeah,
defensive
I'm
back,
sorry, you're right.
had that fingertip tackle of Pearson at
Yeah.
that. It was
He was
over.
on the way.
It was
Yeah.
over. But he tackled him, drug him down. I think it's horse collaring now. But he got him from behind and pulled him down. The next play, I believe it was Dwayne Board hit Randy White, fumbled the ball, and Jim Stuckey fell on it. Game's
Really?
over. I knew none of that happened. I did not ever know, well, till the next day, how close the Cowboys came to coming back and winning.
So they had that drive after the catch.
Yes.
A lot of people think that, the catch was, it's like the
End of the
U.S.
game,
Olympic thing. A lot of people think beating the Soviets won the gold medal. Still had to win another game afterwards. So how much time was left when he made the catch? Do you remember
It was
roughly?
before the play, I think it was 58 seconds
So they
before
had a
the
little
start of the
time.
catch.
Okay.
So it was 50 seconds, maybe.
And I can still picture in my mind, I know you can too, like you're talking about, Montana was just a warrior. And he's drifting off to the right. He gets to the sideline and starts retreating a little bit to make more time and just flips it up.
And I think Dwight Clark, he made it's called the catch for a reason. But I think the defensive back for the Dallas Cowboys took for granted that they were going to run Joe Montana out of bounds. Stop the clock.
Everson Walls was on
Yeah,
it.
and I think he might have give up on it just a second, But
I've heard Everson
Brother
Walls
did.
saying he thought it was out of he threw it away
Everybody from Dallas says that.
because I guess that's why he didn't jump. Boy, there's some deep seated hatred here towards the Cowboys. Now,
you're so right, man.
it's not very deep
Tell
seated.
me wrong. Have you ever met a cowboy that said that he was?
Do you know Mike Irvin?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
Know him
Mike's
well.
a Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
loves them too.
Yeah.
He does.
He does.
There's you've seen, I'm sure, if you're on Facebook, the cycle of a Cowboys fan during the season.
No.
Start out the years, them boys gonna win the Super Bowl, win a few games.
Oh,
it
yeah.
comes up to here, and then they're all prime.
Oh,
Start
yeah.
losing a few. Wait till next year. Get to the playoffs, first round exit.
You're exactly right. Happens every year, don't it?
I always pick on Irvin. I said, the Carolina Panthers won the same number of Super Bowls since 1990, whatever.
As a Cowboy.
As the Cowboys have.
Yeah, but the Cowboys, in all due respect, had their run. The 90s was Michael Irvin was having fun in the 90s because Cowboys
Oh
were,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
they were the dynasty.
Shifting gears because a lot of people are drawing a parallel here between the Cowboys and their owner, who is a hands-on guy and has messed up a couple things, to our Carolina Panthers. You're not a Panthers fan, but you probably pull from being a local team some, maybe, Been to Panthers games, I'm sure,
Oh, yeah.
with something going on. What's your thoughts on Tepper? You've seen, I'm sure, the video of him going into the restaurant this past week before the draft and taking the guy's hat off his head. Have you seen that?
No.
No.
Okay. There's a sign out in front of this pub, restaurant, sports bar type thing that says, let your GM and your coach make the picks this year. Tepper's on his way to the draft, from what I understand, sees the sign, has this guy pull in. You can see him on the surveillance video coming in. You can't hear what's being said because it's a surveillance video in the store or the restaurant. See him come in. He, jokes a little bit, takes the guy's hat, takes it off, and sets it on the counter. Which nothing makes a man any madder than messing with his hat, his cap.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
He had it written on his
Don't-
cap.
He had Eagles on his cap. It's the manager, not the owner.
Oh.
The owner that put the sign up wasn't there. So his manager had an Eagles cap on. He takes it off and sits down. The guy picks it right back up, does this, and puts it back on. And I don't think the exchange was really that great. But he was coming in there, I guess, to talk to whoever put the sign up and I guess try and rationalize why he's done some of the things he's done. But I don't think it would have been good if the owner had been there.
Wow.
So anyway, if you haven't seen that, it went viral. It's everywhere. You can go on YouTube and see it. But Tepper, I guess, just thought coming in, I'm David Tepper. I'm the owner. I'll convince you that we're doing what we're supposed to be
He
doing.
needs to be a little bit more careful.
He needs to let Dan Morgan and his coach make the picks and put together a team because, unfortunately, they've mortgaged their future for a while
Agreed.
on some magic beans and a 5'9" quarterback. So,
Well, I will say this: I went to a function in Charlotte the Friday after Thursday. They traded
McCaffrey,
CMC to the 49ers.
as a 49ers fan, I'm sure you appreciate that.
Well, I didn't fully until that it was the Charlotte Athletic Club or Touchdown
Yeah.
Club. Forgive me, I can't remember the exact name.
Downtown Athletic Club or
Yeah.
something, yeah.
And Chris Berman was there. He was coming to town and let me know he was coming, so I rode up there to see him. And he made a comment that it changed that whole room, and it was a large room of people in Charlotte. And he said, "What a class act last night by the Panthers." And everybody is like still reeling from they've lost their guy.
Yeah.
And he said, "What a class act." He said, the Panthers could have gotten a lot more for Christian, a lot more.
Yeah.
but they decided they wanted to do the right
I see what
thing,
you're saying.
send him home. Number one, he's a Stanford guy,
Right. And the families.
and the
associated
family's there.
Right.
And number two, they sent him to a team that at least they're in the conversation of going deep in playoffs,
Yeah.
maybe even a Super Bowl
Right.
run. When he's not 23 years old anymore,
Yeah.
and frankly, when he was at Carolina, he got beat up a lot because he
did
ran
run the
it.
ball.
He's all
Oh,
they had.
okay.
Yeah.
So he was able to heal a little bit. He was able to go with a team that might have a shot to go deep. And anyway, Chris Berman just sang the praises of the Panthers, huge, and it changed the whole feeling in that room.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Rainer, let me ask you a question.
Please do.
I saw somewhere online. I'm not sure. I don't even know the
Well, if
name.
it's online, it's got to be true.
Sure it is. I don't know the name of the quarterback for the Panthers.
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. Was somebody
Great guy and a super
Somebody,
kid.
somebody posted online that if they start wearing those Guardian caps, that quarterback for the Panthers won't be able to see anything.
That was me.
Was that you?
I put on there that Bryce Young is in favor of the Guardian caps because he just went from 5'10" to 5'11 and a half by wearing a Guardian cap and just added 10 pounds of weight by wearing a Guardian cap.
my God!
Now, have you seen those?
Is that the
That's the big
shell that
rubber-
goes
Look
over?
like some
out of space.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
It looks like, it almost looks like something out of space, like something from Men in
And you know
Black.
what
or
I
something.
don't understand?
But they're going to be allowed to wear it during games.
What
now.
I don't understand is this:
Yes.
you can have a helmet that's big. The damage comes from that sudden stop, and your brain bounces off that skull. That's where it's coming from. So they can have a helmet that big. If that stop is going to be real sudden again, it's going to be the same thing.
Now,
And like Coach Hugh Durham said, Ray Durham, I'm sorry, when he was coaching, football was a shoulder game. You know, people didn't get their heads
Yeah.
involved in it.
that's the key is teaching how to tackle.
And a lot that would stop these head problems and concussions would be going back to them leather helmets with no face mask. People wouldn't be sticking their
Yeah.
heads in there.
I've heard Joe Montana say, "You want to fix concussions? Take the face mask off."
Yeah.
He said, "Ain't nobody gonna stick their face in there."
No,
You ain't going to leave with your helmet in.
They'll start looking like hockey players.
Yeah. Or like Brett Burns with 2 teeth missing. Now, any other memories of Dwight you want to share with us? Obviously, you lost your brother at an early age. I lost my sister when she was 26. It's tough, but he had such a good thing that he did. He always carried himself very professional. You got to be proud of
He
the
wasn't
legacy
very
that.
old, was he, Jeff?
He was 61. He was 61, and he died from ALS, which is
Lou
just a
Gehrig's disease.
nasty disease.
No kid.
Just a nasty. You
Lou Gehrig.
have all your mental faculties and watch your body deteriorate, which was a little difficult when you're
And you
watching a
mentioned-
world class athlete.
Oh, yeah. And
His
you
body
mentioned Lou Gehrig, that's why
Yeah.
happened to him. He was only 39 years old. Wow. That's a horrible disease.
Yeah.
It really is.
Now, those runs
Yeah.
they were making, any other games stand out where you were just tickled to be there, man? I mean, and how did you work that? Being on the East Coast, obviously you guys flew to the West Coast. By the time you started driving, the game would have been over. But
Yeah.
you were jet set back and forth to watch the games. It just had to be a great time.
It was really pretty cool, and the rules were a little more laxed in just flying in general. Number one, but with the teams and everything, the 49ers were owned by Edward DeBartolo, and his father for his 33rd birthday gave Edward DeBartolo the 49ers as a gift. So he was
Really?
33 years old when he owned them.
And when I
And-
hear that name, I picture Eddie.
Eddie
I mean,
D.
Edward, when you started Edward, when you said
Yeah.
it, DeBartolo, yeah, that
Eddie DeBartolo, and he that was not his day job. He had another job. He was investments in building and
a lot like
whatnot.
Tepper does,
I guess so.
except not as good.
Hedge fund folks.
But they wanted it seemed to be more of a tax write-off to him. The 49ers were the first team to not have roommates in the room. They would
Like when they stayed on the road.
every game's a road game now because they want everybody to have, and I think everybody in the NFL does this
They
now.
stay at a hotel now.
Yeah, home games they stay in a hotel,
Yeah.
so it's all the
Oh,
same
really? Before we
routine.
got-
Yes,
okay.
all the same routine.
Okay.
And
I know that.
and Eddie spent money. He liked the 49ers, and they did it right, and they knew it. I mean, they Montana tells a story one time that they had a plane that was pencil thin and barely ran and scared you to death to get on it. They had They had a
Looked like
mechanical
something out of
issue.
Major League with the props
Yeah.
and everything.
They had some mechanical issue, and they had to get another plane, and it was a big one. It's a DC-10. So they flew and they won. And Eddie said, as long as you went on the road, we're gonna fly this DC-10. And Montana said the next game on the road they won it, and when they got back into the locker room, they were not cheering for they were all saying DC-10, DC-10. They were so excited to be able to get back on that plane that they knew they were going to get home.
How many years did Dwight play?
9.
And all of it was at San Francisco.
All at San Francisco.
I don't remember ever playing anywhere else. Now you touched base. We've talked about that on the show before about the difference between playing on the road and playing at home. The Hurricanes lost 2 games to the Rangers at home this year. They go to Madison Square Garden, which most places you get decimated, most teams, and won 5-2. It's a different atmosphere on the road, and you know this from college. You're more of a road warrior. You're especially at the level that Dwight was, in NFL. You don't have to deal with, things at home, domestic issues, not fights type thing, but things whether the sewer
Kids,
guy's coming
whatever.
or you're just on the road focused on the game. And
Right.
sometimes on the road is when you can win your bigger games.
Right.
Do we want to do this day of sports still? Okay. We got time? Okay. All right. Break out your specs there because we got some reading to do. What we do is take turns going around the table, me, you, and Mr. Ashley. And this is everything that happened. All this stuff happened on May 3rd at one time or another. Maybe not, anytime soon, but it goes pretty far back. So all this is stuff, this day in sports on May 3rd. In 1910, Intercollegiate Athletic Association of the United States is renamed the National Collegiate Athletic Association, or NCAA. Do you see any changes coming with that, with all the stuff that's going on now, transfer portal, NILs, and the conferences being totally jacked up? Do you see that something else taking over?
I would say yes. I have no idea what it would be.
What
but
parameters will be?
But NIL that's fascinating to me, and
Kids can
and
make
how
more in
they're
college than they can in the pros now.
well, how the leagues are lining up right now. I'm interested to see just what's going to happen. Is it going to be a school driven or is it going to be the sport driven? I'm wondering if we're going to see a university involved in several conferences, one for football, one for
And that's
basketball.
that could happen.
interesting because, like, say you're not talking about the power sports like football and basketball, or even in college baseball. You're talking about a lacrosse team that now has to leave Chapel Hill to fly to Stanford
Right.
to play a game that there's almost there's
A conference
nowhere near the
game.
revenue. A conference
Right.
game, yeah. All right, you get the next one there.
All right. 1936, New York Yankee Joe DiMaggio makes his major league debut, getting 3 hits.
He ended up having a pretty decent career.
It worked out for him.
All right, you got your Derby question there.
I got you. 1941, the 67th Kentucky Derby. Eddie Arcaro aboard Whirlaway wins his first leg of a successful Triple Crown.
In 1951, Gil McDonald ties the major league record of 6 RBIs in one inning. That may have been broken. I think.
That's Gil McDougal, my friend.
Did I say McDougal? What did I say? McDonald?
Yeah.
McDougal. I remember the guy there's a family here in Onslow County, and the grandfather played for I can't remember the name for some reason, it's not coming to me, played for the Braves, and he hit 2, if I'm not mistaken, 2 grand slams in one inning, like in the 70s sometime. I'll have to research that.
Did you see that on the internet?
No, my dad was listening to it on his radio,
Oh, okay.
and I verified it since. Okay, go ahead.
1975, Krista Valensyk, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, forgive me, runs female world record marathon, 2 hours, 40 minutes, 15.8 seconds.
My running joke is if you've seen me and I've been running for 2 hours and 40 minutes, please kill whatever it takes of me because I'm about to
Now
die.
you think I'm not going to be able to pronounce this word, but I am because I remember
Okay.
the guy. In the 1979 NFL draft, you ready?
Yeah.
Tom Cousineau from Ohio State was the first pick by the Buffalo Bills.
Wasn't he a quarterback?
No, he was a defensive lineman.
Was he? Okay. All right, 1979, the Major League Baseball Cleveland Indians, Bobby Bonds, hits his 300th home run, and he's the second to have 300 home runs and 300 stolen bases. That's Jeff Clark type speed right there, isn't it? 300 stolen bases?
No.
Okay.
No.
Weren't a base dealer?
No.
Okay.
1980, Giants first baseman Willie McCovey hits his 521st and final home run.
That's a name right there, buddy. McCovey.
William McCovey. Okay, 1991, future hockey Hall of Famer right wing Cam Neely injures his knee on a cheap shot by Ulf Samuelson in Wales Conference Finals. Injury limits Cam Neely to only 162 games for the remainder of his NHL career and retired at just 31 years old.
And he's one of those that was
And
probably
cheap shot
one of
guy.
the best ever, but just couldn't play anymore because of a cheap shot. Yeah. And Ashley's favorite saying, of course, is he went to a fight the other night and a hockey game broke out.
That's right.
There's been a couple this year, the Rangers and the Devils, to start the game, they all dropped gloves and fought at the same time.
It's
That's
amazing.
crazy.
It's amazing because they cannot really land. I guess they can some really hard punches because the feet keep slipping when they're on that ice.
And I guess that's why they don't get but once one starts getting the better, they usually break it up before somebody gets really hurt. All right, in 1997, Russia's Grand Chess Master Garry Kasparov begins the chess match with the IBM supercomputer Deep Blue. At that time, that supercomputer was probably the size of this room. What do you think?
Nice. The Kentucky Derby's this weekend. 2008, the 134th Kentucky Derby. Kent Dorsemu, don't let me pronounce that incorrectly,
I don't know. So
aboard Big Brown, wins by nearly 15 lengths. I think Big Brown was owned by the UPS company. That's why they called it Big Brown.
Yeah.
Runner-up, 8 Bells, euthanized after fracturing both ankles. First fatality in Derby history.
That's tough, and I do remember that because he got hurt during the race. That's tough stuff.
I remember the match race when Ruffian ran against female against this male horse, and she was leading, and she broke her leg and had to put her down as well. That's some sad stuff. The Kentucky Derby's when this Saturday?
Yeah,
I think it
this
is.
weekend. Okay.
Yes.
Saturday.
Yes.
You were right when you said I think it's the first one in May. So yeah,
Yeah,
You're right.
Okay. All right. 2015, Chelsea, a good
Go ahead.
girlfriend of Rams
ahead.
over here, Chelsea. She wins the 2014-15 English Football Premier League.
I can make Dave Miller
She is one heck of a
and
football
Steve
player,
Goodson
isn't
and those soccer players just as mad about saying, "Who's Chelsea playing this weekend? Is she going to play? Is she going to play?" And we all know, of course, it's a team.
Right.
All right, in 2018, the Atlanta Falcons starting quarterback Matt Ryan becomes the NFL's first $30 million per season. I didn't know that. At one time, he was the highest paid ever. First $30 million per season player after agreeing to a $150 million contract extension.
And last, I want to thank y'all for giving me the great names today. 2003 Major League Baseball Los Angeles Angels pitcher Ohtani joins New York Yankees legend Babe Ruth as the only pitcher to strike out 500 batters and hit over 400 career home runs in 6-4 win over the Cardinals in St. Louis.
Okay, now you played baseball at an elite level. Imagine, I never would have thought I'd have ever seen in my lifetime, this day and time, a player make the All-Star game as a pitcher and a hitter.
Yeah,
That was unreal.
It was very rare, at least in my college days, that anybody pitched and hit. There were some.
Every now you had that masher that they were going to let hit no
Right.
matter what. Yeah, but this guy, because most times it's so structured now what all your drills you're doing for pitching or all your drills for hitting. Yeah, specialized. Exactly. But that's an amazing. Now, that leads us to the next question. If Pete Rose would have had an interpreter, would he be in the Hall of Fame right now? You know what I'm talking
No.
about?
Yes.
Okay,
No.
Pete Rose only bet on his own team to win. Never bet on any other teams or other teams. Now, Ohtani, there's this big flap. Apparently, it's millions of dollars that were bet. I guess by his interpreter.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you didn't handle any of their accounts over there at Marine Federal, did you?
No.
Okay, good.
No,
So you don't
they-
know the exact number.
I don't know the exact number, but
I heard like in the tens of millions. Is that what you've heard?
I've heard that much.
And
yes.
he's blaming it on the interpreter doing it, and he had nothing to do with it. That's going to be tough.
It'll be a tough one to
So you
for
think
the Court of Public Appeal to believe. In
you
my
think Pete
opinion.
Rose will ever be in the Hall of Fame, or do you think he should be?
I think if he in fact only made bets on games he was playing in for him to win, straight up win, not by 2 runs or 5 runs, I can't believe he's not in.
I can't either.
The
man.
Hall of Fame.
Because I mean, of course, you can have a team win. Like say, in the day Nebraska's going to play Cumberland College, they're going to beat them by 100 points, and all of a sudden it gets down to 50. That's point shaving.
Mhm.
That's you're still betting on your team to win, but it's like Art Schleicher with Ohio State. He wasn't betting on his team to lose. He was shaving points to where it didn't make the spread.
And his nickname for
That
crying out loud was Charlie Hustle.
Yeah,
He played all out every play.
he's been one of the ones that list I compiled. He was mentioned several times as one of the greatest ever. You know,
No
possibly to
question.
go. But
Well, he's the number one hit of all time, doesn't he? Isn't he still on that record?
Oh yeah, and I'm not sure. What's your thoughts on this? The way pitching is nowadays, hitting possibly you can see some of those records come down, but pitching, I don't think Nolan Ryan's 500 some thousand strikeouts. I think are safe because they don't pitch like they used to.
Everybody's on a pitch count now,
Yeah.
and that makes more money for the owners than letting them play.
I was watching a game the other day, and it was the first time I'd ever seen what they call a bullpen game. You heard of this?
No,
1 inning per pitcher. They had a pitcher. It happened a lot in college because you remember in college you might have 20 pitchers
You
at
have
a
9
home
pitchers
game. You
in
know what I
one
mean?
game?
I think it was like 1 inning for the first guy. One guy pitched the first inning. That was it. Went to another guy. He pitched 2 innings, and it was like a couple of innings per pitcher. And they planned it that way to start with. They call it a bullpen game now. So it's total. The pitching has totally changed in baseball.
if you threw one in, I mean, when I was in short relief, I mean, I threw 5 days a week.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, if you only throw 2 outs or 3 outs in this case that you're talking about,
Yeah.
it's not a lot of wear and tear. You could
Especially
come back
just-
tomorrow.
Especially starting game.
Yeah. So if you could have the whole pitching staff ready tomorrow if you did 1 inning a game.
Yeah, true. Well, I feel like we've only scratched the surface, man. I mean, you're like us. You're a sports guy. You love sports. We could talk about stuff forever. We're getting along in the tooth on this episode. We'd love to have you back if you'd like to come back sometime.
Anytime.
Especially if you got an event coming up you want to promote or something. And when you're promoting an event, it's not for anything for you or your organization. It's for charities
Right.
going out. So we definitely want to. You can always just shoot me a text. Let me know if something's going on that you want us to mention. Some of you guys are, helping sponsor, and we appreciate all y'all do for that jamboree stuff, the tournaments where the golf tournaments where all that money is going to great charities. And I think it's really cool because one of the groups that won was a Wounded Warrior team, wasn't it?
Right.
Or what's it called?
Hope for the Warriors.
Hope for the Warriors. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us, Jeff Clark. Thank you, Ashley, for being with us today.
Thank you, buddy. Always
Let's-
a lot of fun. Thank
Let's
you. Mr.
cover
Clark.
all these
Absolutely.
mounting sponsors. We're getting tons of sponsors here, and that's a
Yeah.
good thing. That means we're doing something right, at least. When you get high
And we got
profile,
room for more.
when you get high profile guys like Jeff Clark on here, that means the sponsors are going to come running. All right, Onslow County Motor Company, thank you for joining on, doing our NASCAR report now. CNS Paint, also new sponsor. Rock Creek Golf and Country Club, and you said Fountain Management's back too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to mention them also. Fountain Management, thank you for coming back. Golden Corral is with us. Lane Associates Family Dentistry, Doctors Tommy and Kim Morgan. Jones Onzo EMC, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative. Barnes Diamond Gallery, National Dodge, Chrysler Jeep Ram, and Bayshore Animal Hospital. Their new location is now open at 623 East Sabiston Drive in Swansboro. Southern Touch Painting, Bartley Insurance Services, Bill Mercer, and Humphrey Heating and Air Conditioning. Time to get them air conditioners checked because you don't want it to be when it's that 100-degree day, and that's when your air conditioner breaks. Our Hurricane Watch, now Hurricane Warning, is powered by Downey's Heating and Air. Jason Humphrey and the boys, get with them. And also the Wood Ducks Report. We're going to probably start that next week, get more into that. The season's up and running, and we need to get to a Wood Ducks game. We'll do that.
Bob Warlick, Rangers said he's going to make it happen.
We're going to make it happen. And Humphrey Heating, I already passed that. Racing Report is powered by Onslow County Motor Company. Ben Beasley and the boys, our first NASCAR report. The NASCAR boys will be at Kansas Speedway this weekend. What you got something on your mind?
Yeah, I
can
want to
tell.
just mention another one you might have mentioned that's back on board sponsor. CNS Paint, Jacksonville's premier paint store since 1957. I just want to thank Vetrication and Ron Show for what they do and coming on back, being there with us for the rest of the year.
Yep, we do appreciate it. And this weekend, the Canes, over the weekend, first part of the week, I haven't seen the schedule. Last night, there was a game that I should have checked it afterwards, but they're going to be playing the New York Rangers. Tough team, best team in the NHL. The Canes were actually like the third place team record-wise, but for some reason they're playing the top team in the second round just the way because all the teams were in the East were the East heavy teams. So we'll try and get to a hockey game too. Ashley's going to break out that company credit card and pay for them
Yes, sir, man.
$600 hockey tickets a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
We'll work on that.
But thanks. You got anything you want to add before we go, Jeff?
I appreciate you having me.
Thank
This
you
has
for
been-
being with us,
been
man.
a
We
lot
look
of fun.
forward to
Thank you.
having you back.
Thank you very much.
And thank you again, Ashley. We'll see you guys next Friday on Sports Talk.